Hello and welcome to the Magic Boy production channel for another Commander video. My name is Ben, aka Magic Boy on Magic the Gathering Online, and today we're going to be playing with Dawnsire, Sunstar Dreadnought. This is a brand new channel, and I am playing around with the format. If you've seen some of my other videos, this one's very different, trying to minimize me yapping and just let the games speak for themselves. But please feel free to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly of all, comment. Love to hear thoughts about the game, the format of the video, the deck, anything at all. So this is a bit of a meme deck. We are looking to fire the meme cannon. We want to get Stuffy Doll into play, name an opponent, send 100 damage at it, and blast someone out of the game. I built this as a colorless combo deck around Dawnsire, so there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. I'm not going to go too in-depth on the deck, though. You can check out the full list and the description in Architect using a link in the video description here. I played a total of 5 games with this deck on Magic Online, and the first 2 didn't go very well, so I went back to the drawing board. I brought the curve down, I added some more cheap spells, and particularly cheap ramp spells, and it seemed to function a bit better. The third game is the first game you're going to see today. It shows quite a bit of what the deck can do. The fourth game had a bracket 4 deck in the pod, which kind of killed the vibe, so it didn't make for great content. And then the fifth game, Chef's Kiss, this is a 1 in a million game. You should definitely watch it. It's a quick watch, and you'll see exactly what I mean if you do. Without further ado, let's jump into those games. As far as this deck goes, our opening hand is pretty solid. We've got some lands, we've got a 2-mana ramp spell in Mind Stone, and we've got some later plays that we're going to need to segue into. Our first opponent is Zinnia. This Jeskai commander is often going to be gaining value by breeding small creatures, which is also going to feed Zinnia's power, making her a Voltron threat. Alayla is an old school Esper commander that gets to translate game actions into 2/1 fairy tokens, so we can likely see some very good cards and some controlling elements that are backed up by a flying air force. Radiant Archangel is the most old school of all. This is a commander you don't see often, the true villain of Urza's Legacy. She gets bigger for the more flying creatures you have, so I'm guessing this is a mono white flyers deck. We start things off with the Bonder's Enclave, passing to Zinnia. Zinnia is going to play a Mystic Monastery, fixing their Jeskai mana. Alayla has a command tower into a Preordain, and they bottom both cards. Radiant just has a Plains before passing. On our turn, we're going to play Thespian Stage and play out our Mind Stone, tapping out. Zinnia has a Skycloud Expanse into a Felwar Stone. Alayla has a Brainstorm main phase to sculpt their draw a little more, and then a Misty Rainforest to follow it up. Another Plains from Radiant and another pass. We play Talon Gates of Madara, and we're going to play the very powerful Mystic Forge. Happy to have a Walking Ballista on top of our library to go with our Skull Clamp. Zinnia has a tapped Thriving Bluff, and then they're going to cast their commander. Misty Rainforest is cracked for a Meticulous Archive, surveilling a card to the top of their library, and they have a Dark Confidant to follow up, and a Polluted Delta. Radiant has another Plains, no plays yet. We draw our Walking Ballista. We're going to play Walking Ballista and then Skull Clamp it up so that we can draw this Tomb of the Spirit Dragon and make a land drop for the turn. That's going to allow us to tap Mystic Forge and play a Mana Vault off the top of our deck. Very powerful. We've got a Thriving Heath from Zinnia, and then a Panharmonicon, really powerful card in their strategy. Alayla cracks their Polluted Delta for an Undercity Sewers, scaling a card into their graveyard. Dark Confidant is going to reveal a Force of Will on Alayla's upkeep, which is really good to know about. They play an Underground Sea and follow up with their commander, and they even have a 0-mana play in Mishra's Bauble to make their first fairy token. And they're going to crack the Bauble, looking at the top card of our library and setting up a delayed trigger. After that, they swing Dark Confidant at us, so we're going to take 2 damage, and they pass the turn. On Radiant's upkeep, the delayed trigger from Mishra's Bauble lets them draw a card. Radiant has a Plains for turn, and then their first play of the game in Thran Dynamo. It's a good one. It's a pretty powerful ramp piece. On our turn, we're going to ignore the Mana Vault trigger. It's already untapped. We're going to clear the land from the top of our library with Mystic Forge, and we reveal a Forsaken Monument, which is an awesome card. I suspect that it's going to draw out a Force of Will, but we have to get through that at some point anyway, so I go ahead and cast it. And sure enough, Alayla is going to exile a blue card from their hand and pay a life to counter it for free. Soul Ring off the top of our deck is a really nice consolation prize. And we're going to cast Ancestral Statue. This is going to let us bounce our mana vault so that we can set up for next turn having a ton of mana. We play out our Mycosynth Gardens and just equip Skull Clamp to Ancestral Statue so that in case anything happens to it, we'll get to draw some cards. Zinnia is going to cast a Dowerport Mage, and they're going to use the Offspring trigger from Zinnia to make a copy of it. And because it's an ETB, Panharmonicon makes it so that there's 3 mages, which is pretty cool. Zinnia is going to go into combat. I was assuming they're going to attack us because I feel like we're clearly the threat, but they go after Radiant. Maybe they're afraid of what we could do to them. Maybe they've played Radiant before and know that deck is really scary. So they're going to do that. On Alayla's upkeep, Dark Confidant reveals a Duskro's Reliquary. They play a Wasteland for turn and use it to cast a Talisman of Progress, making a fairy token. They go to combat, they spread some damage around the table, dealing 2 to each of us. We do get the commander damage, and Alayla gets to gain a little bit of life. They're going to cast a Nihil Spellbomb, making a fairy token, and they cast that so they could set up as sacrificing it for the Duskro's Reliquary. It'll make them another fairy token, and they can draw a card off the Spellbomb. And they're going to exile Panharmonicon. I guess they identified that as the biggest threat. Radiant has an Enlightened Tutor on their upkeep for Sacred Mesa, which is a super old school token producer. Big fan of that. It goes well with the lots of mana that they have at this moment. So they cast Sacred Mesa and play a Plains and make their first Pegasus token. We untap with some options. I could Portal to Phyrexia here, but really that's just going to clear out a bunch of tokens and not have too much impact while being a really scary card. So instead I decide I just like to get some more value off of this Mystic Forge while it's still in play, and then set up for a big Rise of the Eldrazi turn. So we cast our Foundry Inspector. That's going to give us -1 cost to our artifacts. We get a 2-mana Worn Power Stone. We play out our Abstergo Entertainment and then cast a free Mana Vault. And that's going to result in Sacred Mesa being activated for a second Pegasus. We play Ultima, Origin of Oblivion off the top, and then a free Voltaic Key. We're going to get to untap our Mana Vault with our Voltaic Key and then play Anti-Causal Vestige off the top of our library. Then we just pass. Zinnia has an island. They're going to cast Impact Tremors, and they're going to follow up with a Squatted Gary clone, which is a card I've never seen before. And so Impact Tremors is going to ping the table twice. After that, they go swinging and they swing at Radiant again. I guess they're really concerned about this for some reason, but Radiant just chump blocks with the Pegasus. On their upkeep, Dark Confidant will reveal Alayla a Mistvault Bridge. They are going to swing out at us, which makes total sense. We're definitely the threat. We'll block down one of the fairies with Ultima and take a hit for 8, including some more commander damage. Alayla will gain 2. They have a Thopter Foundry after that, making a fairy. That's probably going to combo with a Sword of the Meek in their deck, and then they just play out a Scalding Tarn. On their upkeep, Radiant has to pay the Pegasus tax, so they sacrifice 1. They cast Cathar's Crusade, which is a pretty cool card with Sacred Mesa, and I'm curious if they are going to be able to sequence correctly, and it looks like they are, so they make their 2 Pegasi with the triggers on the stack, and that's going to make them into 3/3s with the resulting counters. On our upkeep, I think about untapping Mana Vault, but it's worth the damage to have the draw available from Mind Stone to me, so we take 1. We draw for our turn, and we're going to play Urza Saga. It's going to get its first chapter ability. We're going to float some mana, and then just cast our huge spell here, Rise of the Eldrazi. We're going to take out the Impact Tremors, since that could potentially result in a lot of damage out of nowhere, and draw 4 cards and take an extra turn after this one. We cast a 2-mana Cloud Key, naming artifacts to get our artifact reduction up to 2. And that's going to let us cast Solemn off the top of our library for 2 mana, fetching a waste onto the battlefield. And then we get to cast a 2-mana Joyrus Familiar, which is going to bring our artifact reduction up to -3. So lets us cast a 2-mana Kuldotha Forge Master, super powerful card. After that, we'll go to combat, swinging the Ancestral Statue at Alayla. If they kill it, we get to draw cards. If not, they take a hit. They're going to Swords to Plowshare our Kuldotha Forge Master in combat, so they clearly know that that card's pretty threatening. Then they just take their hit. Before we pass the turn to ourselves, they're going to wasteland our Urza Saga, pretty heads up play. And so we untap. This time we will go ahead and untap the mana vault. I'm not sure I'm even going to be able to spend all my mana here. We do find a 1 ring for just 1 mana off the top of our library, which will prompt Alayla to sacrifice Scalding Tarn for a Tundra, and then Force of Negation, the 1 ring, exiling it. We have a great follow-up in Kozilek's command. We'll just cast it for X equals 3 here. That's going to get us 3 Eldrazi spawns and let us do some scrying and draw an Ugin the Spirit Dragon. We're going to clear the top of our library with Mystic Forge, then cast a free Manifold Key. For 1 mana, we'll cast an Everflowing Chalice, kick twice, so that'll come in with 2 counters. Sacrifice a spawn to do that. We've run out of stuff on the top of our library, so we'll just play out our Buried Ruin, and then cast Ugin the Spirit Dragon, affectionately known as Eugene. We're going to -5 Ugin, which is going to exile all colored permanents with mana value 5 or less. That results in 2 concessions, and the Zinnia player is going to get 3 draws off their Dowerport mages and their Panharmonicon back. We cast Dawnsire and then station it up. And we're doing that so that when we attack, we can nuke our own Solemn Simulacrum for another card, see if we can get anything fun off the top of our library. They're going to take a decent hit there, but just Shrine of Forsaken Gods on top. And they untap and draw their card and don't have anything to deal with our menace, so they're going to concede and we win the match. Our opening hand is absolutely insane. It's not the best possible hand that this deck could produce, but it's pretty close. And so we let our opponents know in chat beforehand that we are the archenemy. They should do everything they can to take us out. Speaking of opponents, our first opponent is Tanic, Steadfast Second. This is a red creature out of Edge of Eternities that lets you warp red creatures and artifacts out of your hand for just 3 mana. And it also gives all your creatures haste, so it's kind of a big sneak attack in the command zone. Next up is Merrin of Clan Neltoth. This is a classic commander, green-black experience reanimator. Usually has lots of sacrificing creatures to gain experience counters and then get those creatures out of the graveyard for tons and tons of value. Last up is Gargos, Vicious Watcher. This is a big Hydra that's a Hydra Lord, reducing their casting costs, and it also fights things. We are going to kick things off with Mishra's Workshop into Soul Ring, floating some artifact mana, and then cast Everflowing Chalice, kick twice. So we're going to have access to 8 mana on turn 2. Tanic has a mountain and passes. Merrin has a forest and passes. Gargos has a Windswept Heath. They crack that for a forest and then pass. We play out Bonder's Enclave and then Forsaken Monument, doubling our mana, boosting all our colorless creatures. Tanic has another mountain. Merrin has a Reliquary Tower and passes. Gargos has a forest and a doubling cube, pretty intriguing card. At end of turn, we're going to Kozilek's command ourselves for X equal to 3, making 3 Eldrazi spawns and scrying 3 cards to the bottom of our library. Don't want any of those, but we just draw a Witch's Clinic. We're going to play that Witch's Clinic and cast Dawnsire. We're going to gain some life off Forsaken Monument. And we follow up with a Scrapyard Recombiner. We have enough power to station up Dawnsire a bit, getting ready for next turn. And we just pass, leaving some options up. Tanic has a mountain and a Hazoret's Monument. Merrin has a swamp and Growing Rites of Itlimoc. That's going to grab them a Morbid Opportunist. Gargos has a Fabled Passage into a tapped forest, and they cast themselves a Sanctum Weaver. Very intriguing deck. We draw a card with Bonder's Enclave at end of turn. We play out the Mycosynth Garden, and we're going to float mana with our Everflowing Chalice and then sacrifice it to Scrapyard Recombiner to grab our Stuffy Doll. We cast said Stuffy Doll and gain some life off Forsaken Monument. We're going to name Merrin. They seem like the most likely to be able to interact with what we're doing. We cycle Blasted Landscape, looking for another creature so that we can station Dawnsire fully, and we get that and gain some life. We're going to station up, turning Dawnsire into a 22/22 flying spaceship. We activate Bonder's Enclave in case there's anything fun, but then we just go into combat. We're going to swing out at Gargos, and we're going to direct the 100 damage at Stuffy Doll so that it blasts Merrin. And we identified Gargos. I feel like they're more likely to be able to deal with this than Tannic. And so Dawnsire is going to fly on in and deal 22 commander damage to them, knocking them out of the game. At which point Tannic just scoops, giving us the victory of this crazy, crazy hand. Well, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. Would love to hear from you, so feel free to comment, like, share, subscribe, all of that. Looking forward to doing more videos in this format because it's a lot faster to do, so I should be able to get more out, and I'm going to try to get out some on a bunch of the Edge of Eternity's commanders before that gets too stale. So that's going to do it for me today. Good luck and have fun in your future endeavors. Magic Boy out.